Good day, my dear friends. I am back in this session. Ask anything to me, but today we will interview one of my best friends in the field of accelerated learning. I will bring Lonny Gold. He's in Sweden right now, and we have been together for decades, and you will enjoy this conversation with Lonny. Let me bring him up. Hi, Lonny. How are
Hi,
you?
really good, Adrian. How are you?
Everything is under control. Thank you for asking. I am
Yeah,
very pleased to have you here.
I'm absolutely delighted to be here. But you mustn't tell people that they're going to have a good time. We're not sure, but
Oh,
I'll try as hard as I can for them to have a good
I
time.
am sure they will have a good time, especially because of you, my dear friend.
Well,
Let
the
me
big rule for
let me
teachers.
go into the questions directly to the questions.
Okay, let's
I
do
was
it.
wondering why you came into the music, why you start having the music as a preferred field.
Okay. Well, there are two questions there. The first is why I got into music. The second is why do we use music in accelerative learning? How I got into music is a very strange story. My mother and my father always used to argue with each other at the dinner table when we were eating, because my mother would say, Lonnie, you have to sit up straight. And my father would say, leave the boy alone. You're stopping him from enjoying his food. And so my mother, who was very, very clever, said, the only way I can get him to sit up straight is by making him play the piano. And so at the age of 6, I had to start playing the piano because I had to sit up straight. And apparently things went better at the dinner table too after that. So that's the first question. The second question is the importance of music in accelerative learning. And I would say that it's one of the bases. And later on in the discussion, I will tell people a lot about music and how important it is for our survival. Without music, we die. But don't believe me yet. I'm going to give you a lot of interesting information. I hope interesting information when we get onto that subject.
Thank you for that story. That's a wonderful story. What fundamentals principles differentiate accelerated learning from the traditional learning?
Well, in traditional learning, it's the teacher who dispenses information the way people in a soup kitchen give out food. Here you are, have some more information. But there's no process. The classroom is usually set up like in a military configuration, straight rows, not good for communication. Information just goes one way from the teacher to the student. And then the teachers have nervous breakdowns after a certain number of years because they aren't being stimulated. They're just giving, 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 trying to control and inhibiting learners' creativity. That's for traditional teaching. That's my vision of traditional teaching. With accelerative learning, the information is given emotional meaning. And because it has emotions attached to the information, it goes to long term memory. Activities change every 7 or 8 minutes. Surprise after surprise after surprise. The course leader or the teacher is a fellow traveler. He feels as if he's one of the students, learning as much as they are, but he's just further ahead along the path of learning. The classes have to be enjoyable. If the teacher is bored, the students will be bored. And if the teacher is having fun, then you're going to have students who are having a wonderful time. We appeal to their artistic sense, their creativity. The information should be woven into a kind of storytelling format, inducing a kind of childlike openness and excitement in learners. I think that is the basic difference between traditional teaching and suggestopedic or accelerative learning teaching.
It is a consequence of the traditional uh, teaching to use the repetition, the mechanical repetition, which are the consequences for the students about that mechanical repetition.
They get bored, especially the intelligent ones. The intelligent ones sort of say, okay, I understood it. Why are they continuing to repeat, repeat, repeat? Now, in accelerative learning, we do use repetition, but it's hidden repetition. We'll have 5 different ways of saying the same thing so that it seems different every time.
Every student bring their own beliefs, their limiting belief. How can accelerated learning facilitator identify and overcome participants' limiting belief?
Okay, I'm going to give you a very detailed answer, but very concrete. The only way you can overcome limiting belief is by creating a situation where you fool the students into going way beyond what they thought they could do. And they surprise themselves. And then they say, ha, I'm not as limited as I thought. I'm not the person I thought. Um, Gosh, I have to think who I am. I'll give you an example. On the one of the first days, because I teach English most of the time, and one of the interesting things about English is that we have very few conjugations, but we put an S on he and she. So I like, you like, we like, they like, but he likes, she likes. So to teach that, I get my students to stand up. I have a ball, a kind of beach ball. I say, I like airplanes. I throw the ball to one of the students. The student says, Lonny likes airplanes and I like chocolate. Throws the ball to a next person. The next person says, Lonny likes airplanes. Andre likes chocolate and I like dancing. Throws it to a fourth person. The fourth person has to keep repeating it, repeating it, repeating it. When we get up to number 7, the people start being surprised because they didn't think that they could remember, first of all, the name of all of the participants, and secondly, the order in which the ball was received, and thirdly, what each person uh, likes that much. And so, first of all, they're learning grammar in a completely hidden way. And secondly, we're showing them, look, you've just remembered 12 people you didn't know in a row, and you remember 12 objects associated with each person. So that would be the first example. Does that make sense to you?
That make a great sense.
Okay.
Yes.
Then when I'm getting to do teacher training, for example, I get the people up and we stand around in a circle again and we stamp our feet. We stamp our left foot, 1, 2, and then we stamp the right foot, 1, 2. And then when we stamp the left foot, we listen. And when we stamp the right foot, we okay. And so I say, my name's Lonny. So Lonny, and everybody shouts Lonny. And then we move on to Andre, 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 Miriam, Miriam. And we go around. We never do more than 7 at a time because the brain can sort of keep 7 units. And then we go around and we do the whole group. And normally we can get up to 28 or 30 people. And we're learning the names of everybody in the group. It's a new group. Secondly, the order in which the ball's been received. And thirdly, about 30 different objects. And then after that, I get people to turn around and remember what each person is wearing. First of all, we remember the position of the person. Andre is standing next to Marie. Marie is standing next to, and so on. And we do all of this without looking. And then the people say exactly what each person is wearing or the colors they're wearing. And after about 6, 7 minutes, they turn around and they realize that they were about 90% right. And they say, my God, I never thought I could do that. And that is the secret to Suggestopedia. It's constantly creating situations where people just blow their own minds because they said, wow, I never thought I could do that. That's how we get rid of limiting beliefs.
I remember that you mentioned that they clap,
That's
and I
right. Yes.
immediately I thought uh, a phrase that says corporal movement is the doorway for learning.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
And I want you to emphasize for our audience the importance of the corporal movement included in the exercise.
Okay. Well, I personally am a very good example because there are 3 basic types of learners. The visual learners, they learn through their eyes. The auditory learners, they learn from what they hear. And then the kinesthetic learners. And I am in this very, very troublesome third group, I only learn when I'm in movement. So if I'm sitting in class, I'm probably going to rock back and forth. Drives the teachers crazy, but there's a reason why I'm doing it. I'm doing it now to show you. The reason why I do that is because that stimulates the liquids in my ear, which make it possible for me to remember things, because I'm a kinesthetic learner. Every time I had a book to read, I would get on a bus and I would read the book on the bus, and I would choose the bumpiest street, the bumpiest roads with as many potholes as possible, because that way I would get shaken up and I could read through the novels I was supposed to read. I couldn't do it when I was sitting still. So the movement is extremely important, and it also embeds all of the information with different movements.
I heard you in the past mentioning the importance of the ambience of the environment in learning. What role does the learning environment play in the success of accelerated learning, and why it is crucial?
Okay. There was research done about 20, 25 years ago at the University of California at Berkeley. It's one of the most prestigious universities in the States. And the conclusion they came to was that what people remembered was 7%, only 7% with verbal, 38% nonverbal, the teacher's expression, the teacher's body movements, etc. And 55% was the context. Okay? So the environment is completely crucial. If a teacher comes into class wearing a greasy smock, and everybody knows that the teacher's just been changing the engine of a car and has to do the class, and so they've squeezed the class in between changing car parts. It's a very negative suggestion, because the whole class realizes that they aren't very important. If if we have a horrible classroom which is dirty, which hasn't been cleaned, or it's in a school corridor, then people get a very negative impression. We are not worth very much, and that is going to inhibit learning. So how do we get around that? Well, in a suggestopedic or an accelerated learning classroom, we have a lot of aesthetic posters with a lot of information. We make use of the students' peripheral perception. In other words, what they see without realizing that they're seeing it. And that is the key to success in accelerated learning. It's giving people information they don't know that they're getting, but somehow they know it because they've seen it, but they don't realize they've seen it, so it's like magical. Other things that you can do is soft music in the background. For me, it's very important to have natural daylight and connecting learners to nature. If you can take people out of the classroom into flowers and trees and grass, etc., that's also very, very positive. Any connection to reality helps us a lot.
A lot of plants in the classroom is mandatory in some countries, because they know the relation between the healing and the plants in the classroom. Also, I want you to make a comment about the physical arrangement. I saw a photo of my school where I
Uh-huh.
attend primary school.
Yeah.
In 1963, I graduated from the primary school.
Okay.
1963, and I saw a photo of the school,
Yeah.
and the school has the same the same physical arrangement that I had at that time. What is the importance of change the physical arrangement in the classroom, and how it influenced the learning effectiveness according to accelerated learning?
Okay. Two things. First of all, I get rid of a lot of the tables. I put the tables on one side of the class, and when the students have to do something creative, they just leave the circle that they're sitting in. But basically, most of the time, we're in a kind of horseshoe configuration. In other words, it's a circle which is open on one side, and that's where the teacher stands. Yeah, this we could have a complete circle, but then the teacher would have problems getting up to put on music, to give out different things that he wants to give out, and other things. Okay, yeah. and the fact that the teacher has his own or her own side of the circle creates a kind of feeling of order, and the teacher has a slightly different status, which is important. If the class is large enough, it might still be nice to have a small circle, but with all of the artistic tables on the side so that people can go off and create things when the group is creating things. Yeah, the important thing is not to have desks in front of each student because that serves as a barrier, a shield that keeps everybody away. It kind of sends an unconscious message. I am here, you stay away from me because I need my own space. And in fact, in accelerated learning, we want to share the place. We don't want anything that's defensive. Yeah.
Some people uh, classify me as an ambiguous person, and I tell them thank you
Okay.
because I am very comfortable with the ambiguity. Why it is important for accelerated learning facilitator to be comfortable with ambiguity.
Okay. This is the deepest question so far, and I think it's the most important question that you could have. Uh, Ambiguity is a way. It's a reflection of how we lead our lives. There are some people who are uncomfortable if they don't have absolute clarity. Things are black and white, black or white. Their experiences are positive or negative. Everything is 0 or 1. There are people like that. But creativity flourishes not in black and white, but in gray. It's in the gray and the situations of confusion that certain types of creativity find its voice. For mistakes to be positive learning experiences, the teacher must see the logic and intelligence behind them and credit the learner for their approach. So even if something is wrong, you have to admire the mental process that the student went through to arrive at that answer. Think back to all the people you know. I'm going to ask you a very, very difficult question. I'm going to give you a moment to think. Have you ever enjoyed someone who is very happy to be wrong? In my experience, before anyone can ever accept being wrong, they have to have been right enough times before in their life. If somebody's been right most of their life, there's no problem if they're wrong. It doesn't destroy them. Let me give you a stupid example. Let's pretend that one morning I come to work wearing one blue sock and one green sock. Okay? It was dark. I was half asleep. I did my best. I got myself dressed. I came to work. If I'm unsure of myself, like a 13-year-old, people noticing this could be devastating and could cause great shame if they were to laugh at me. However, as a 77-year-old with fairly successful career and a happy family life, this experience would not destroy me. And I might comment to everyone, how amazing! I have another pair just like that one at home. Once turned into once turned into a joke, the ridicule would no longer have any power at all. But coming back to your main question of ambiguity, people develop when they feel safe. In accelerated learning, the teacher, to use a sports term, will run interference. In other words, will protect any student who isn't confident enough to defend himself. It's the teacher's role to find why every mistake could be plausible and to show what is intelligent in that mistake. I'll give you a concrete example. If a student says, for example, that New York is the capital of the United States, which we agree is wrong, okay? Especially you who live near Washington. Okay, if a student says that New York is the capital of the United States, the teacher's reaction ideally would be, you're quite right that New York is the financial and cultural capital of the United States. And then continue and say, but political decisions are made a 6-hour drive south of New York in a city called, and then you wait for someone to shout out, Washington. At which point the teacher glosses over things by saying, but you're quite right, outside of election periods, culture and money play a more important part in most people's lives than politics do. It's this ambiguity that fudges. Do you understand fudges? That
Yeah.
fudges the distinction between right and wrong and gives us all the freedom to evolve.
Um, some people I heard calling me, "You're a drama queen."
Okay.
I love that when they say that because stories and drama are part of my way of teaching.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I want you
Absolutely.
to reinforce how can stories and dramatization contribute contribute to the learning process in accelerated learning.
Okay. There was a very, very famous American filmmaker. I'm not talking. I'm going to go get over the fact that he's become controversial for other reasons, but he was a fantastic filmmaker. His
Woody
name was
Allen.
Woody Allen. Woody Allen, absolutely. And he would say very interesting things. And one of the things that he said was, adults are just children who pay taxes. Okay. And like most children, most adults love stories, and we like pretending. It's a kind of creative game. Children's games. Why do children play games? They're basically trying to simplify reality to prepare them for more complex situations later in life. That's why children play. I'm a doctor, or I'm the shopkeeper, or I'm the bus driver, and they pretend that they're driving a bus. It's just a way of coping with the fact that later in life they're going to have to deal with things in a more complex form. So, stories for adults are like going on vacation, away from the grind of everyday living. We love stories. And when we dramatize, we invest emotionally to take ownership of new situations and new forms of behavior. It's the way we grow up. I remember when I was 13, I wanted to look tough to impress the girls in my school. And so I would stand in front of a mirror and I would practice walking. It's the same sort of thing. We're always preparing ourselves for the next stage in our lives.
Maru Garcia from Mexico is sending you her regards, and she asks you, share a challenging situation with a student and how you handle it.
A challenging situation?
Challenging situation with a student.
Mhm. Okay.
How
Okay.
did
I
you
can.
handle it?
Well, she would have to tell me more about the challenging situation. But what I can say is that I always put myself in the student's shoes and figure out what the world looks like from that student's point of view. And once I've done that, once I've quickly recreated the whole universe that I consider probable in the life of that student, I understand. I have a tendency to understand why the student is behaving that way, and then I line myself up with them, if necessary, against the world, against the class, against everyone, against all the other teachers, in order to just understand and make this person feel that they really have a friend who is an ally who wants to understand them and wants to make their life better.
Maru,
Empathy. If I were looking for
Maru,
one,
Maru emphasized learning challenge.
okay, she has to be more specific. I know that I once had an unemployed man. I once had an unemployed man at a period before it was fashionable to be unemployed. Um, and when I was teaching him the time in English, when the hour hand was on the 4 and the minute hand was on the 11, he kept telling me it was 11 minutes to 4. And I had to, in this case, it was quite easy. I just got him to go back to his own language, which was French at that time, and realize what he was doing. And then he laughed and everything was okay. The important thing is to de-dramatize things. I have a daughter who left school when she was in grade 9 because she was very, very, very bad at school math. But she's got the most mathematical brain I've ever met. And I always took her side, telling her, "You're amazing. It's the textbooks that don't understand your form of intelligence. All you need is one person to be on your side, and you can sort out almost all of your problems. Never, ever align yourself with the system, because usually the system is an approximation of what most people need, but it's never anything that any one person needs. Take the side of the student. Be on that student's side. All they need is one friend.
Wow, I like that. Only what we need is one friend at school. That's correct.
Yeah.
What does it mean for an accelerated learning facilitator to have sensory acuity, and how it is easy to develop?
Yeah. Okay. Uh, Here, I might upset people because I'm going to give you a kind of joke answer. If you don't have sensory acuity as a basic tool, what do you have? With the sensory acuity, you can pick up the signals from your learners. Everything that you do will be pertinent, it'll be relevant, it'll be right on. But if you're blind to what's happening, everything you do will be irrelevant and pointless. So the next question, the second part of your question, if I understood it correctly, is how do we develop this? And here I'm going to upset people, okay? Are you okay if I upset people, Adrian?
Yes, upsetting is good
Okay.
sometimes.
Stop filling up your minds and empty your mind. We have all kinds of preconceived notions that stop us from seeing what's actually happening around us. We're inside our own projections, our own thinking process, and we don't actually stop and look. Some people will do this through meditation. Meditation doesn't work for everyone, but it's good for some people. Others will go for walks in nature, focusing on nature. Others might sweep away the cobwebs in their minds through exercise. Intense exercise can clear your mind as well. Look and listen. Now, I have a very, very unusual, I have three children. They're all unusual. My youngest daughter was particularly unusual. She was able, at the age of 10 and 11, to imitate any singer you could hear on the radio. She could do Freddie Mercury so well that you would swear it was Freddie Mercury. She could do Elvis. She could do anyone. And she sounded exactly like them. And one day, I was in total admiration. I thought she was incredible. And I said, "How do you do it?" She looked at me exasperated, almost angry, and she fired back, "I listen."
She needs a comma, stupid. I listen, stupid. Oh God.
No, she was too well brought up to say that, okay? But I understood it. I understood it, and you understood it.
Yes, perfectly. We mentioned the effect that the music play in the learning process, but I want to widen that to art. How do the arts affect the learning process in accelerated learning environment?
Okay, right. Okay. First of all, I'll start with music, and then I'll go on to art after, okay? Right. The main
Please.
thing about music is that it is necessary for our survival. Without music, we do not survive. We sort of like dry up. It favors intellectual development and sociability. It slows down the aging process. It inhibits other brain disorders. In other words, if you've got things that are going wrong in your brain, the music, just the fact that the music exists, will bring it back to order. Before birth, it links our cognitive and emotional intelligences, because our cognitive intelligence, emotional intelligence, and appreciation of music all start at 16 weeks in the womb or in the uterus, okay? And so this is very, very basic stuff. It has a positive effect on general health, and it helps us learn. It's a basic pillar in the development of language. It improves reading and creativity. And in Texas, which is not a very cultural place, it actually gets cows to produce more milk. Okay? Did you hear me? Yeah. Because in
Yes.
Texas, they actually put classical music on in the stables with the cows. And they find that the cows produce about 15% more milk when they put the classical music on. So for economic reasons, they put the classical music on. It changes the structure of the brain. It creates more neurons, greater density of the cortex, and more connective fibers. Then there's therapeutic uses. I won't go into all of this, but one fun fact is the fact that flutes were made from elephant tusks and bones, and they go back 50,000 years. It goes back that far, 50,000 years. Okay, and there's a lot of research on this, particularly in France. And I've got all this information from a book called the Neuronal Symphony, and it's about professional musicians who've done a lot of analyses on the importance of music. Now, art, Lozanoff said, Dr. Lozanoff, who created Suggestopedia and accelerative learning, he said that art is the highest form of suggestion. And of course, the original name of accelerated learning is Suggestopedia because everything was based on the role of suggestion. And he defined suggestion as any information that comes to you at a level of intensity so low that it comes to you, but you don't actually see it coming. It's kind of, it's under, I don't know how to put it. It's there, it's happening, but you don't see it. It's subliminal. Okay, so that is the importance of art. It's the fact that it opens up areas of our brains which are just phenomenal. Now, somebody who works in the States with this is Libyan Casson, and Libyan Labiosa Casson, and she actually has systematized the use of posters, and she's got all kinds of rules, which I'm not familiar with, of how many posters you need, the different colors you need, and she's got one rule, which she never told me, but people in Mexico who had worked with her told me. You have to have a picture of a road going off into the distance, into the horizon. And apparently that's a very, very positive suggestion because you realize that you're on a road, you don't know where it's taking you, but the possibilities are unlimited.
The multiple intelligence model, there are several, but especially Howard Gardner's has become very popular.
Yeah.
How are you familiar with this theory and how you integrate it into
Yeah.
your programs?
Okay. I can give you an answer to the first part and half of an answer to the second part. For people who aren't familiar with this, there are 8 intelligences according to this theory, okay? The first is visual spatial, things that you learn with your eyes and your concept of space. Verbal linguistic, in other words, managing language. Logical mathematical. Musical rhythmic. Interpersonal, the kinds of relationships we have with others. Intrapersonal, whether our philosophy makes us happy with ourselves. Naturalistic, how we relate to nature. Bodily kinesthetic. And then existential and spiritual. Sometimes it's included, sometimes it isn't included, the existential spiritual. Now, how do I use it? I don't use it a lot. I just see what my group is like. And if the group is very, very interested in doing things with space, I'll bring in a lot of activities and use space as a concept. If they're really interested in language, complicated formulations, I'll bring in lots of activities where we can play with language. If it's very mathematical, generally speaking, I'm so bad at mathematics that I get the group to function without me because I don't want to slow them down. I'm just not very good at that. One of the important things in accelerated learning is when you're not doing a good job, withdraw and let the group get on with what they are very, very good at doing. Not every teacher can be good at everything. In fact, no teacher can be good in every way. I am very bad with dancing and things like that, so I don't do it. I'm very good with psychology and humor, so I do a lot of that. There are going to be differences. You have to have your form of accelerative learning correspond to what you're good at. My friend Libyan in Atlanta, she's very good with artwork, so she does amazing things with art. I am terrible with art. So if people are really good at it, I encourage them, but I don't try and take the lead. I let them take the lead because I just am not good enough to be able to lead an art group. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes. Thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
Motivation is always necessary for a student, especially intrinsic motivation.
yeah.
What impact does the intrinsic motivation have on the success of the learning?
Okay, I think in this particular with this particular question, there probably isn't a huge difference between accelerated learning and traditional learning. The student who is motivated is going to do better with traditional learning than the bad students. And the same thing with accelerated learning, except with accelerated learning, the teacher can manage to motivate almost everybody because there'll be a lot of activities which are stimulating and fun. One thing that the teacher has to do is to protect the students who are less motivated from the ones who are very motivated, because the ones who are very motivated might get very, very angry with the other ones for slowing everything down. In the same way, um, yeah, uh, yeah. Um, the thing, the thing is that sometimes the less motivated ones need protection because they need more time to become more motivated. So the teacher can sort of intervene and create a safe space for them. But by and large, you learn faster in accelerative learning, in traditional learning, if you're motivated. But it's less important in accelerative learning because the teacher is there to create a lot of stimulation and motivate.
You use a lot of metaphors in your languages and your presentations. Uh, what is the importance of metaphors, analogies in the process?
Well, the thing about metaphors is that it conveys an idea much more quickly than a long intellectual explanation. So, for example, I had a group of teachers I was training, and I wanted to explain to them that when they're in danger, the blood stops going to the cortex, and it's very difficult to learn new things because we need the blood in different parts of our body in order to survive. So I created a story, a ridiculous story, but the story was the story of a man who was crossing the street reading Albert Einstein's theory of relativity. And a bus turns the corner and starts heading for the man. What does the man do? Does he continue reading because the idea of relativity is so interesting? Or does he stop reading and let all of the energy go to his legs so he can run out of the way and live another day? So that would be a kind of metaphor, the kind of metaphor that I would use. Um, when I'm talking to teachers and I explain to them that you mustn't press students, you mustn't force them to start talking before they're really ready to start talking, I tell a true story about a little boy who was 2 years old, and I just love this little boy so much. Um, Actually, he's not my son. Well, he's a stepson. He was the son of my first wife, and we had the most wonderful Saturday afternoon playing in his home. We were playing ball, we were playing with blocks, we were playing with all kinds of things. We had a fabulous time, but he couldn't speak. And so he tried to make little sounds to communicate with me, but I didn't understand a word of anything he said. And that was on the Saturday afternoon. On the Tuesday, I spoke to his mother, and she said, "Can you speak to my son? He would be so happy to hear you." And I said, "Well, there's no point really because we have a wonderful time when we're together, but I don't understand a word that he says." And she said, "But it'd be so nice for him." We started speaking on the phone, and he was speaking fluent French on the Tuesday. Everything that had gone into his brain, into his memory on the Saturday, could now come out in a form which was perceptible, which was understandable to other people. So it would have been wrong to think that nothing was happening in his brain just because he couldn't package sentences in a way that I could understand. There are things going on in the brain which are so mysterious that we just have to stand back and with great respect wait for whatever it is to to take shape, to come into whatever form it's going to come into. So that's an example of a metaphor too. Then there's a writer, I don't know if he's well known in the States or in Venezuela, but he was a Danish writer called Hans Christian Andersen. Have you heard of him?
Oh yeah,
Okay.
no, he's one of my preferred writers.
Okay, wonderful. Well, he's got a lot of stories, and one of them is The Ugly Duckling. And the ugly duckling is a duck that doesn't look like all of the other ducks, and the other ducks make him miserable and keep away from him and ostracize him. And yeah, and it turns out that as they grow up, he isn't a duck, he's a swan, and he's much more beautiful than the others. He's got his own personality. It was just that he was taken for something that he wasn't. And that is also, for me, a very important metaphor. If you can't recognize people for who they are, at least don't pass judgment. Let them develop into whatever they're going to be developing into at whatever speed suits them best. Refrain from judging and let them get on with whatever process is happening. And when you have, I mean, you've had children, very often the children are programmed much more intelligently than the parents. The parents want the children to do all kinds of stupid things, but there's an internal, natural program in the child that keeps telling the child exactly what they should be doing. And the intelligent parents listen respectfully to what the child is asking for and follow it. That doesn't mean that if they want to watch television until 1 o'clock in the morning, that you should let the children do that. But as babies, there is a program which is built in that is foolproof and absolutely perfect. And I think we have to have that kind of modesty. And that is the way I would use metaphors. It's to drive home points in a faster sort of way.
But I remember from the story that you said from Hans Christian Andersen that his mom, loved him deeply,
Yeah,
with no difference with the others, and that made the difference for him too. I remember that, and when I visit Denmark, I always try to go to a place where Hans Christian Andersen make something like drink coffee or drink chocolate, or
okay, yeah,
to go to the different places there, because
yeah,
I love his books.
right,
Let, let,
wonderful.
let me tell you something about the energy. Some groups are not energetic at all, and
Uh-huh.
when they come to you, they don't have any energy,
Hmm.
but some others have plenty. Perhaps you cannot control them because they have too much energy. How can you manage this energy from the group?
Okay, right. The important thing is not to kill the energy. Don't destroy the energy. Direct it in a very, very positive way. Find out what it is in this over energetic group that excites them, that they're really, really motivated by, and then try and structure it. But don't go against that energy. Keep the energy, but keep directing it in a way which is pleasurable for them. And if they're having a good time with their energy, it's probably something that you as a teacher, you could really enjoy as well. There's only one problem. The one problem is that if you're in a school or if you're in a company, well, here we're in a school actually, because we're talking about young people. Um, I think that you could get complaints from other teachers next door, and that's a big problem. Other teachers can start hating you, first of all because you're noisy, and secondly because your children are having a better time than their children. Try and isolate them or take them to places where they don't disturb everyone, but don't destroy the energy. Keep the energy, because energy is something that you can use in any direction whatsoever. It could be it could be getting them to mime a football game with complete silence. It could be that for them to start miming different animals and have everyone guess what animal they're miming. They could imitate political people or artistic people or actors or actresses. It could be anything. Just be creative to use this energy and give it a very constructive outlet. Don't block it. Don't destroy it.
to give our audience some energy, I want to share something that I want you to tell them about it. Now you have it on the screen. Could you tell them what is that about?
Yeah, I'm. Let's see. Yes, at the end of October, I'm going to be running a 5-day teacher training program in what we call in Europe Suggestopedia, but in the States you usually call it accelerative learning. It's based on the research and the discovery of Dr. Georgi Lozanov, who was a Bulgarian doctor and psychiatrist. And there is an awful lot of things that we do that go against everything that traditional teachers do. So if you are interested in finding out more about this, and you will probably be very, very grateful if you do follow one of these courses, but not as grateful as your students will be, um, then come to Paris. I mean, you may have gone to Paris with your wife or your husband on a romantic trip and so on. With or without the husband or the wife, come to Paris. It's an amazing place. It's always been an amazing place. And I'm going to be running I don't know how many days, but probably at least somewhere between 6 and 10 days with people from all over the world. So, yeah, get in touch with us. And Adrian, do you have what's it called?
Yes.
Okay.
They
Can you put
already,
that?
I
Mhm.
already showed to them, and
Ah,
I
you've
am,
showed it to them. Okay,
yes.
good. It's the
Let,
link, and you can get more information about how I work with Suggestopedia. You can get more information also about me. Not much about Paris, but you can get stuff about Paris on the internet. But it could be a major opening up of doors, which will give you a totally different concept of how to manage groups and which parts of yourself to draw upon in order to create that magic, and how to create the magic and then get out of the way of the miracles that you are in the process of creating, so that it's the students who take ownership, and they'll be grateful to you 10, 15, 20 years afterwards, because it'll be a life transforming experience. So, you know.
thank you, Lonnie, and I hope that the people take advantage of that invitation. Most of the time, I was thinking about we have known each other for decades, and most of the time we are with a bunch of people, with a group
Yeah,
of people,
yeah,
and collaborating and learning
yeah.
together.
Mhm.
Um, I want you to tell the audience about the importance of the use of foster collaboration and team learning.
Right. Well, you can have certain activities which foster team learning. It can be silly things, very, 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 very simple things. For example, I've got one. What song does everybody know in the States? Can you give
One
me the
little,
name?
two little, three little Indians, four little, five
Okay.
little
Okay. Good.
Indians.
Right. Okay. I remember that. I learned that when I was 2 or 3 years old. Okay. So let's say that you and I are partners. We're working in twos. Okay. Okay. So I give you a text that says one little, and then I keep a blank, little,
Two.
and I write three, and then a blank. And I've got the same song, but the blanks are in different places. So I have all of the answers to the blanks that you don't have, and you have all of the answers to the blanks that I don't have. And by taking texts that we've already learned, but by leaving out different different things in your text and in my text, we need each other to move ahead, and that's one way that it can become collaborative. Another way is, I've got a very, very good game, which in England they call a Paul Jones circle. A Paul Jones circle is where you have, say, 10 people in on an inner circle, 10 people in an outer circle. I put on music and we turn in different directions. And then I stop the music and you've got a partner in the other circle. Clear so far? And then let's assume that this is a mixed ability group. I will organize things so that I'll have the weaker people in the inside circle and the stronger people on the outside circle. And I will give an easy task to the people in the inner circle, sort of tell me about, for example, tell me about Paris. And the stronger person has to say, Paris is the most beautiful city in the world. The music goes on, they turn in different directions, and then I say, Mexico. And then the next person says, tell me about Mexico. So the tell me about is easy. It's a mixed ability group, okay? The weaker person says, tell me about. And the other one actually talks much more. And so they're learning from each other, but they're at different levels because of that. Okay, yeah. Oh, yes, another thing, which is a lot of fun, for complete beginners, day one, I say, okay, I take half of the group and I say, you are tourists checking in at a hotel. And I take the other half and I say, you are the receptionists in the hotel. And the receptionists in the hotel ask the normal questions like, what's your name? What's your occupation? What's your nationality? What's your occupation? And the people who are the tourists answer those questions. Clear so far? And then we change roles. But unlike traditional teaching, we don't just change roles. There has to be another element which changes the situation. I say, now you're staying in cheaper hotels, and this time the receptionists are older people and they don't hear very well. And so we play the same thing again, but it's a different dynamic. And said, hello, what's your name? And the person says, my name is Dr. Fox. And the other one says, oh, Dr. Box. Okay, what do you want? And he says, I want a room. He says, oh, you want a broom? No, 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 we have cleaners for that. And we have a very strange situation where they get into an argument because one of them can't hear. So there's a kind of interdependence, but not ever repeating an activity. As soon as you repeat an activity, it's dead. But as soon as you bring in a new element into the activity, then it's absolutely wonderful. Okay, so that would be 3 examples of collaborative learning.
Thank you for that. Very, very funny. Um, I think my first question to you every time we talk is, hey, Lonny, where are you? In which country are you in? In which city are you in?
Okay.
You are
Yeah.
very into a multicultural environment.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that challenged you a lot because you have people in your group, you have people from 20 countries, 30 countries at the same time. What are the challenges that can arise when applying accelerated learning in a multicultural environment? How can you overcome it?
Well, you have to know what it is. You have to know a little bit about each culture, if possible. Okay. For example, when I was in China, I was working in China, and I wanted to have role plays. And I told one of the students, you are somebody who is looking for a job, but basically you want to look for a job because you want to steal money from the company. And the person got very, very, very upset. And they said, no, 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 I'm sorry, sir. You are the teacher. I respect you, but I cannot play the role of a dishonest man. And I said, oh, yeah, when I was 3 years old, my father told me that you must not steal. I said, okay, fine. And then I thought for a second, and I said, okay, sorry, my instructions were wrong. You want to join the company not to steal money, but to engage in industrial espionage. I said, oh, okay, fine, no problem. Because when he was 3 years old, his father said, don't steal, but the father did not say, do not engage in industrial espionage. So there was no problem. I had another problem. I had another problem in Bulgaria. In Bulgaria, I had the story of this girl who's a musician, and she's in love with her cousin. And the students in the school got very, very upset because they couldn't understand how you could be in love with your cousin, because that's a no-no in Bulgaria. So I had to change my text and say, sorry, it wasn't a cousin, it was a next-door neighbor. And there was no problem. Yeah. Okay. And in each society, there are different taboos, and you have to know what these taboos are. And that's the most tricky thing, because people are going to get upset very, very, very about very, very different things, and you have to know what to do in each culture. Yeah.
We,
In yeah.
we were talking the other day about the behavior of some people in Paris, about people that speak French in a poor way. You know, they are not very proficient in the language, and some of them do not treat them well because they don't speak good French.
Yeah.
uh,
Okay. It's
what is the the possibility that you can teach some facilitators that have problem with the language?
Yeah. Okay, there are two things here. First of all, France has changed a lot. At least Paris has changed a lot. Now people are very happy if you try and speak French. They get angry if you don't try and speak French. That's the opposite of Sweden. In Sweden, if you speak Swedish badly, they consider you complete dirt. But as long as you speak English, they sort of look up to you. So you have to know it's completely different in different places, okay? Yeah. In Germany, they're very happy if you try and speak German, even if your German is schrecklich, terrible. Yeah. And in Spain, I don't know. In Spain, well, I wasn't in Spain very much, but now people are speaking English in Spain. When I was in Mexico, people were very nice to me. They just felt that I was handicapped, so they felt pity for me. So you've got to figure out what it's like. Now, there's another aspect of multicultural classes. It's that there may be a certain amount of racism in some of the classes. For example, anti-Muslim feeling or other things like that. What you have to do there is just show how similar the people are in terms of their aspirations, what they want in life. Yeah, I know that when I was in France, I was feeling very irritated when I saw women in oh, what do you call these things? These long dresses which cover their face. I was feeling irritated because the whole society was feeling that. But then I ended up with Muslim students in Sweden where there isn't that prejudice. And all of a sudden I just realized, hey, they're exactly like me. So the first thing is you have to know the cultures. We had problems. We had problems in Sweden because I had one game where we had people, we were teaching them the alphabet A, H, M, and so on, and we would draw the letter on somebody's back. But that didn't work at all with some of our Muslim women because no man is supposed to touch them, and so we had to change that game so that it was culturally appropriate. Yeah, but okay. I mean, we found some other game. One possibility was getting a woman to write the letters on another woman's back. There were other things where you would show the person the letter and make them draw it themselves on their hands. You're constantly basically you have a program. You have a program because you figured out the program, but it has to be 100% flexible. You don't know what's going to work and what isn't going to work, and you have to be able to fall on your feet like a cat falls on its feet when something doesn't work. You have to be able to move into a variation of what you've planned and do it gracefully without pausing, and you just do it because that's what's needed at that moment. You have to be
Yeah.
very sensitive to the feedback that you're getting from the different people.
Love is the answer of everything. You know, I remember when I was in Canada, I saw people wearing burkas, you know, and
Burkas, that was the word I was looking for. Yeah.
in Canada, you know, that doesn't fit in the big cities in Canada to see people in burkas, and I saw the reaction of the people to that, and I
Yeah.
told to myself, they don't think, you know, the feelings of the people. They are being treated badly because of that, you know. But you know, it's a problem of love, and I love to be here with you, my dear friend. It was a great conversation. Thank you for accepting me to have this
Pleasure, Adrian.
conversation today. And thanks to everybody that connect to this session, and the one that will follow us in YouTube. Remember, you can find this program in YouTube after the
Okay.
end of the program. And I look forward to see you in the near future, Lonnie.
Okay. With great pleasure, Adrian. Okay. Good. Well,
Have a
thank you
great
very much, and
day,
thank you to all
everybody.
the people. Yeah. Oh, it's nighttime here, but okay. Yeah.